So, but on the way down there, he says to me, he always carried an old time satchel, leather satchel, like you'd see in these old movies and stuff. And I don't know how old the damn thing was, but it was a high dollar leather custom made satchel, which means it was kind of an inflated briefcase.
Mm-hmm.
And we're getting back in the car, or I'm trying to think where he showed me the gun. He had this biggest goddamn handgun I'd ever seen. It looked like one of those Clint Eastwood guns, dirty, hairy thing. And I said, "What, Mr. McGuirk? Why do you need that gun? Why do we need the gun?" And he said, "Well, I'm going to kill Ted DiBiase over at Shreveport. Matter of factly, like I'm going to order green beans. You're going to put them at 3 o'clock." So I make a phone call, and we didn't have cell phones, so when you made a call to lower the rate, you would call collect, and you call, and they say, well, who's calling, and it was always the same person. For some reason, they used Gene Kaninsky as the person always calling in, who wouldn't get the phone call, the collect call accepted, but they would, they would do their thing. So Cowboy starts laughing. I said, well, I don't think it's so fucking funny. To be honest with you, Cowboy, Bill, and but what he was going to have me do was I was going to take him to the Alamo Plaza Hotel, check him in, leave his door cracked, and his chair was going to be sitting right in the door. So when the door opened, it was just right there. And he had this huge fucking handgun that he was going to blow DiBiase away. You know why? Because DiBiase was secretly dating Mike McGuirk. And Leroy had a hard, fast rule. My daughter is not going to date any wrestlers. So he was very set on that deal. He was very serious. Hey, if you're talking about murdering somebody,
that's pretty serious.
You're pretty damn serious. So I'm thinking to myself, driving into Shreveport, what am I going to be charged with? Accessory to murder? What the hell's going on here? So luckily, as the story ended, we know Ted DiBiase did not get killed.
Right.
He made it through. Cowboy met me at the Leroy's room. Cowboy stayed in the same place and took over the reins. Was because by that time, Leroy had already gone through a half a pint of whiskey just out of the bottle. He drank every day. Every day I was ever around him. I was around him a long time. But he was a hell of a professor to teach me wrestling. And it's all fundamental stuff. And sometimes I get too heavy in the fundamental stuff, even in today's world, because especially I don't think that young talents really want to hear it. Fundamentals. And so Leroy taught me fundamentals. And then, of course, Cowboy was a genius. And he had a lot of confidence in me, which made me want to work with him more.
Right.
It's pretty cool stuff, man. So I had a great undergraduate, graduate school type arrangement. And then I topped it off with Vince. So my education is still ongoing. None of us can just sit back and say, okay, I don't want to improve anymore in my life. I like everything just like it is. And that, my friends, is a recipe for disaster.
I know that, just being sort of the handler, if you will, for a blind guy has got to be tough. Something I've never asked, though, and I'm not really sure, because you told us he was an amateur wrestling badass, but
yeah.
How did Mr. McGuirk lose his sight?
Well, he lost one eye as a kid, some kind of backyard accident, running, playing stick, boom. But he went through high school and college with all that amateur athletic success with one eye, sight in one eye. So he overcame, stubborn, focused, and a hell of a wrestler. Some of the greatest pictures I've ever seen to this very day were him wrestling and during his wrestling days. he had a big run in Hollywood, not as an actor, but as a wrestler, because wrestling was big there at that point in time in Hollywood. So he had pictures taken with, Gorgeous George and James Cagney and Jack Benny and Lucille Ball, and they were at the events, and he was signing autographs for them or shaking their hand or whatever it may be. So he got to be big, and got over, and then he got blinded. To finish to answer your question, in the early 50s, in a car accident. Now, there's various stories about the car accident. Some say it wasn't a car accident. He got poked in the eye in a fight. That sounds romantic, but I don't know that happened. I can see it. He's confrontational, and it could have happened, but I don't think it happened. Here's why. There's an old-time wrestler named Bob Clay, Cowboy Bob Clay from Muskogee, Oklahoma, who was with him. Now, Conrad, you've been in the business long enough in your unique role to know that wrestlers have a hard time keeping a secret. And by your laughter, I assume you agree with me.
That's fair to say. Yes, sir.
And so if all these years and one wrestler knew what really happened because he was allegedly there, don't you think it would come out by now?
Yes.
Of course. Because wrestlers don't keep secrets very well. Unless it's from their wife or significant other. So that's how he lost his other eye. And then he got very committed to the blind dog causes, not blind dogs, but dogs for the blind.
Right.
I one of my jobs was to go to the public library and get him these books on it's like a big album, like a record the size of an album. But what it was these they were books, audio books, and I didn't know they even had such a thing.
Right.
That's before us, what we're doing,
Right.
And so he was an interesting man. I learned a lot from him. I learned more about the world and sometimes what not to do. He was very verbally abusive to his wife. He was a very nice lady. But I can see how he could be bitter, and he drank too much.